And now to talk about our module of the week, let's turn it over to Martin Anderson-Klutz, a senior solutions engineer at Acquia and a maintainer of a number of Drupal modules and recipes of his own. Martin, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks, Nick. Have you ever wanted to build a web form in Drupal and have the corresponding Next.js template automatically created for you? There's a Next.js library for that. It's called Next.js Webform, and it was created in August of 2022 by Laurie Timoney, who listeners may know as the Drupal core product manager and one of the people leading the Starshot initiative. It does have test coverage, and for documentation, there's a lengthy README and a tutorial on the Acquia dev portal that we'll have a link to in the show notes. There are currently 17 open issues, 3 of which are bugs. And according to the NPM page, it has been downloaded 2,246 times per week. Now, using this library does require some setup on the Drupal side, including installing the Webform and Webform REST modules. There's also an extra patch to install if you want to use any autocomplete fields. And some configuration is needed for both the REST resources that will be used to exchange data and the permissions for the account that will be used to retrieve and submit data. Out of the box, the library supports over 40 web form components. You can also provide custom elements if you need something else. The library also supports conditional logic, so fields can show or hide in the Next.js frontend based on conditions defined in your Drupal backend. The library also provides front-end validation for email confirmation, date list, and date time fields, but back-end validation is also processed for every submission. There is a crowded field of headless CMS competitors, but I thought this library is a good example of the extra power and flexibility you get by using a robust open source CMS like Drupal as the back-end in your headless architecture. So let's talk about Next.js Webform.
My first question in any of these situations is always, how does the backend validation bubble up to Next.js? Because I imagine that's tricky. And I imagine Laurie thought about it, but I'm curious if you know the answer.
So I'm trying to recall. This is one I actually have used because I've used it in some demos for people comparing different headless CMS technologies. I imagine what happens is basically the front end library knows to look for that as a potential response when submitting the web form, and then it would sort of appropriately show whatever the error message is. I'm not sure if it'll actually highlight the field or any of that other stuff, but I'm sure if that's something a project needed, you could probably open up a feature request for that.
Okay. Yeah, the JSON API responses include a way to specify that there are errors in the response. So I'm sure that I haven't actually used this module, but that's the way JSON API works. So they would be showing web form errors in that response saying these are errors. And then it'd be up to the front end to read through that, figure out, which fields to highlight and all that stuff.
I have to say too, one of the things, this is a little tangential, but I feel like it's been a really long time since there's been an initiative in Drupal where every time we talk about something, I think, recipes is going to help out with configuring something like this so much. Recipes is just starting to get out into the wild for real, I think. I hope it lives up to my expectations because my expectations are so high. Everything I've seen says that it will meet those expectations. But yeah, I'm just this is a NPM project, right? So the Drupal.org version is just for a place to kind of create issues. But I could see this being kind of a partner module for a recipe to do the kind of install and configuration for permissions and things. But
not to be preachy, but Nick, it's open source. So even if it doesn't live up to your expectations, you can make it live up to your expectations.
It's the proverbial scratch your own itch phenomenon of open source, right?
There you go. Yeah, this is definitely very, very useful because when working with Drupal, there are plenty of people that are putting web forms on their sites, and sometimes they come up with custom solutions that may or may not work that great. But here's one that you can kind of just drop in there and get the right responses and have web forms on your site. So that's cool.
Yeah, I wanna like there's more of those like popping up on Drupal.org at the moment, and Martin, I will send you a couple of more examples of, like, not for web forms but for Search API. There's like more of those examples where where I love that we have general projects on Drupal.org where we can actually put on these modules, and then there's like served by something else. So yeah, exciting.
I will say, I think, and I could be totally wrong about this, so fact check me where you will, but I feel like web forms was one of those modules that first kind of like had that like API integration, or was thinking kind of in a way where it's like, oh, somebody might want to use this headlessly one day. Like, let me build out like a way for that to be possible. Of course, this module just builds on top of that, I'm assuming. But
I mean, maybe other than JSON API, but it's kind of silly to compare to JSON API, since that literally was the purpose of it. But your point is well taken.
Well, no, but I guess my point there was like, I think web form has the ability to, and this is totally going down a different path here, but I think web form has the ability to like copy code out of the back end and place it on your front end to like kind of get your web forms to work as well. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Martin. And as always, an on-topic module of the week. And if our listeners want to suggest one, what's the best way for them to suggest a module of the week?
We're always happy to get nominations for Module of the Week in the Talking Drupal channel of Drupal Slack, or folks can reach out to me directly as ManClue on all of the Drupal and social platforms.